a poet state, the separation of church and apostate. I'm D. Turnbow, an ex-Jehovah's Witness, third generation. I was born in nearly 61 years ago, and I was excommunicated 32 years ago, and this is my story on shunning. While I was excommunicated for the last time 32 years ago, I had been excommunicated 4 times. I was also publicly and privately reproved about 5 times. Where I used to view these as unspeakable wrongs, I now see them as bragging rights. I'll spare you the details of that past and jump to that summer of 2018. On the first day of summer, June 21st, 2018, my daughter would have been 29, but on April 29th, 2018, my daughter was shot in the back of her head while sitting on a Chicago park bench, shielding her 5-year-old daughter. While my daughter's then 5-year-old survived, the unborn baby did not, and my daughter was pronounced dead on May 16th, 2018. Now, not long after we learned from the doctor that our daughter would die, my ex-wife was anxious and obliged to tell me that while her closest and longtime Jehovah's Witness friends were aware that I was disfellowshipped, her new elder and new Jehovah's Witness friends, who were not aware that I was disfellowshipped, were not to be engaged in a conversation by me once they arrive at the hospital. My ex-wife then told me, "But you don't have to leave." At that moment, the waiting room took on a different meaning. It became a makeshift kingdom hall for the Jehovah's Witnesses, but every kingdom hall around the world is a backward waiting room, where the Jehovah's Witnesses are waiting again for the word again from their leader, the Watchtower Doctors of Doom, to tell them again when the world will end. Again. The room, the elephant, the sheep and the dog. Just before my ex-wife's new elder and Jehovah's Witness friends arrived at the hospital, I sat on one side, and my ex-wife and her old Jehovah's Witness friends squeezed on the other side of the elephant. Once my ex-wife's new elder and Jehovah's Witness friends arrived, although then I had never seen any of them before they would arrive, the scene was a familiar one, a flock of sheep being herded by a sheepdog. My ex-wife must have notified her new elder and new Jehovah's Witness friends about my being disfellowshipped and an apostate, and she must have told them that I was the one in the waiting room across from the half-glass partition wall in the second chair from the end, wearing the black leather jacket, white shirt, blue jeans and western boots, because as if the Jehovah's Witnesses were looking through a store window, they peered me through the glass, and as they stepped inside, one by one, they hit the ground shunning. I got up and brushed past the sheepdog, and scattered the sheep as I exited off of the Watchtower Animal Farm. Passover. Absent from the herd were my brainwashed and dried Jehovah's Witness mother and sister, and while my mother and sister did not show up at the hospital, they called my ex-wife to give their condolences to her, but passed over my grandbaby and me. Neither my grandbaby nor I have heard from any of my Jehovah's Witness or Jehovah's Witness sympathizing family. They would not care to know that my grandbaby still blames herself for her mother's death because she asked her mother to take her to the park that day. While this may be hard to believe, in a little better than a year's time, my mother and 2 brothers have died, and I was not told about any of their memorial services. Now, on the one hand, the Watchtower Society forbids the Jehovah's Witnesses to take blood. On the other hand, the Watchtower Society demands blood. Finally, where it has been said that blood is thicker than water, the Jehovah's Witness cult is a deadly blood thinner. Distortion. When my ex-wife asked me about a funeral, I told her that I couldn't care less about having a funeral, and this is what she wanted and needed to hear, to put on a Jehovah's Witness meeting under the pretext of a funeral, in the name of our deceased child. I did not attend that travesty. The Jehovah's Witness funeral is not a funeral, it is a distortion and a falsehood, because at a Jehovah's Witness funeral, or a service conducted by the Jehovah's Witnesses, you will not hear a word from the deceased's mother, nor father, nor husband, nor wife, nor sister, nor brother, nor significant other, nor family, nor best friend, nor childhood friend, nor schoolmate, nor neighbor, nor grandparents, nor son, nor will you hear a word from a 5-year-old daughter said about her deceased mother. You will only hear some elder, a watchtower sheepdog, a leashed, glib, and lowbrow zealot megalomaniac, dropping watchtower poppycock. That our daughter was not a Jehovah's Witness, and that she never showed interest in being one. The service for her was not held at the Kingdom Hall, so my ex-wife had to have the service at a different paid facility. Think about that, and compare the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Kingdom Halls to church members and churches. How backwards is this? The Kingdom Halls that the Jehovah's Witnesses paid for and built with their free labor, and the regular donations that the witnesses tender for the maintenance, utilities, and taxes for the Kingdom Halls are hardly used, if ever, for the Jehovah's Witnesses or on their behalf. The Jehovah's Witnesses are under the rulership of the Watchtower scumlord as to how the Kingdom Halls can be used. Obituary. That my ex-wife took care of every part of the service. She asked me for words or a poem, but in the end, her deep-seated programmed contempt for me as an apostate to her religion caused her not to include my poem in the obituary, and for emphasis, she omitted my photos from the obituary. First, my ex-wife's reason for not having my photo in the obituary was, as she claimed, she could not find a photo of me, but not once did she ask me for a photo. Now, as regards my poem to our daughter, the reason my ex-wife omitted my poem entitled Epicede was, as she stated, the poem is too dark. Epicede. I like to join you, we withered flower, cherished mother and daughter of ours. Were it not for your child, I would give in and be dead with you, instead of living. I sent my ex-wife a second poem entitled My Angel. My angel, remember when I swung you high? Then you said, now let me try. You swung yourself just past the bush. Now you're much higher than we could push. Theftocratic. My ex-wife angrily told me that my second poem was my attack on her and her religion. She then said, our daughter is not an angel, and she is not in heaven. That's false religion. Every part of the service is the way I want it, as theocratic. My ex-wife's reckless religiosity knows no bounds. She preached the same not an angel watchtower doctrine to our then 5-year-old grandchild. My granddaughter told me that her grandmother warned her, your mommy is not an angel, and is not in heaven. If Jehovah likes her, he will bring her back to life. So you must get to know and love Jehovah in order to see your mother again. My grandchild used to beg me often, but do you wish that Grandma was right about Jehovah, so that Mommy can come back to me, and we can see Mommy again? While I told her yes, the idea is that anyone should be told to conform to Jehovah's Witness beliefs and accept their Jehovah as God, lest she'll never see her dead mother again, only resurrect a body of lies. That my ex-wife has never been at ease that our daughter and I reared her daughter without Jehovah's Witness belief. My ex-wife is deployed in watchtower theocratic warfare. The camouflage of cowards is using new motherhood to try to scrub away the so-called dirty void of our grandchild's rearing, then pull her in, train wash her, and offer her up to that sex predator, serial suicide murder cult, Jehovah's Witness. Watchtower headquarters. As if our grandchild were a willful little Jehovah's Witness sympathizer, the time my ex-wife spends trying to pack our grandchild's head at Watchtower dogma can be reported to the elders to be turned into the Watchtower headquarters where the org checks its field service traps. It is rather out of love and duty to the Watchtower Society than out of love for God or out of love or spiritual concern for our grandchild that my ex-wife is trying to prepare our grandchild for membership into the Jehovah's Witness cult. Full cult press. On my grandchild's first visit to the Kingdom Hall with her grandmother, my grandchild was love-bombed and bribed, but when these failed, my grandchild was spanked. All the words are staged. My granddaughter told me that when that man on the stage at the Kingdom Hall asked the audience, "Why are you mad at Jehovah?" her hand went up, but had to be forced down. I asked my granddaughter, "What were you going to say to that man?" My granddaughter said, "I'm mad at Jehovah because he let the devil kill my mother. But Grandma forced my hand down and told me to shut up and sit still or she would spank me." Grandma then told me that that was not a question to be answered. The resurrect, shun. It was at bedtime. It was a few months after the death of her mother when my grandbaby sat up and solved that illogical Jehovah puzzle. My grandbaby cried, "You know what, Daddy? If Jehovah didn't like Mommy to make her an angel, he won't like her to make her human again." Now, the miseducation of Jehovah's Witnesses. The Watchtower Society has the Jehovah's Witnesses operating in the awful storm of shunning. In fact, the control tower miseducates the Jehovah's Witnesses on God, humanity, the afterlife, and itself, to keep the witnesses feeling that by proximity to it alone can the witnesses keep separate from the world, and safely pass through the again delayed Armageddon, again, in these so-called last days, again. The Watchtower Society did this by convincing the God-fearing, but naive believers that it is God's only earthly channel. The Watchtower Society paired hijacking and redefining everyday words to imply originality. The Watchtower Society then raped over the Bible, then fabricated a shunning policy as if it were God's. Then to bolster its narrative, the Watchtower Society fused the everyday and non-religious word apostate with Jehovah antagonist, then blur those lines to make Jehovah antagonist synonymous with Watchtower defector, thus writing itself into ever-reverence by transposing the glory of God to itself. Out with the old, in with the nuisance, and you have the light to remain silent. The Jehovah's Witness behavior and loyalty to the Watchtower Society has been described as cognitive dissonance, cognitive distortion, cognitive inertia, and even Stockholm Syndrome. How else do you describe the Jehovah's Witnesses' behavior, where they have tried to defend the Watchtower Society's diaper doctrines with the same parrot poop? That the control tower has too often switched the old light with the new light, the Jehovah's Witnesses are lightheaded. Regrettably, the Jehovah's Witnesses still try to defend the indefensible, but leave critical thinking in critical condition. The new light with the old have become as good cop bad cop, that implicate the witnesses, where the new light is really of interrogation. Anything the witnesses say will be held against them. Mimes and shunishment. No shun intended. The Watchtower Society keeps the Jehovah's Witnesses believing that its relentless repetition on the scriptures on shunning is to protect the organization and the witnesses' spirituality at the same time. But the Watchtower Society's only concern is for the organization. The corporate Watchtower Society is no more concerned with the witness's spirituality than can a dog cast a human shadow. While on the one hand, the Jehovah's Witnesses shun ex-Jehovah's Witnesses as unrepentant wrongdoers and bad associations, on the other hand, the Jehovah's Witnesses keep company with unrepentant wrongdoers and bad associations, as their religion is a haven for unbaptized Jehovah's Witness sympathizers. JWs. The unbaptized JW sympathizers make a mockery of your shunning policy. 1 Corinthians 15:33 is not 1 Corinthians 5:11. Don't get them twisted. The unrepentant wrongdoers and bad associations you keep company with have cleverly, only by mouth, immersed themselves in the battle for the beast, then by water, immerse themselves in the belly of it. and there is no shun intended, as long as they remain unbaptized. Some I know, even for decades, they can keep practicing their old ways, and still keep company with you. And it gets worse. Jehovah's Witnesses, the Watchtower Society's shunning policy is a smoke screen, a shun screen on an open window that traps you in. Thank you for listening.